we've worked so hard begging the public to accept our marriage, our family. And in a moment, she decides we're divorced, and it feels like it delegitimizes everything I've worked for.
When I chose to leave Kody, I knew I would be open publicly about it. And this was a decision that I was making. And one of the things that I was concerned about was, would I be considered a fraud? Would I be considered a liar?
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. I hope you're having a wonderful day. This is a weird time of year because Sister Wives is still on air, but then in the real world, we're watching in real time what's going on in Utah as it relates to Kody and Christine. And there is something that is so wild, bizarre, weird. I can't even believe they're being forced to do this if you consider the facts of this case and the fact that they are never and have never been legally married. They're both married to other people, and the court is requiring that they take classes to try to reconcile. I was actually just talking to Kristen Decker, who is Christine's aunt, and I was telling her what was going on in this case, and she was absolutely shocked, calling this another example of how screwy Utah is when it comes to trying to leave people that are abusive and get out of relationships. But we were talking about how why would the court care to have these two take divorce classes when they are obviously not married, have never been married, and they have the ability to treat this case like a custody case. They do not have to fast track this into a divorce. It doesn't have to be treated as a divorce. It can just be treated as a paternity case. But instead, they're treating it like a divorce, and it's going to make this harder for the both of them. And it's like they're going to be taking classes that are going to try to keep them in an illegal marriage, illegal, because both are married to other people. So let's kind of dive into what they've been required to take and what Christine just filed in the court and what she completed. So the state of Utah has some options for how they're going to manage cases. And in the court system, the divorce court and the family court system treats child custody often under the same umbrella of divorce because often these cases involve divorce. However, there are numerous times when child custody does not involve divorce. Parents were never married, but even in those cases, they can sometimes fall under the umbrella of divorce. Not always, though. You can file a child custody case and paternity case without it going down the track of divorce. In this case, I don't know why it's being treated like a divorce, but it is. This is not common. When I talked to Kristen, she didn't really know anyone that had to go this route to deal with child custody when they were never legally married to someone. However, if she would have just been doing the process of child custody, technically the only class that Christine would have been required to take would have been mandatory parenting courses. Courses that will teach, which talk about child custody, alleviating stress of children, dealing with parents that are not together, and providing resources to parents. But in this case, even though Christine and Kody haven't been together since 2021, haven't shared a home together since 2020, Christine is now legally married to another man named David Woolley, owns a house with him. Kody lives in Arizona and is legally married to Robin. And they are being required to go through 2 hours of education set up by the legislators in Utah to try to prevent people from divorcing. Now, when they implemented these classes more than 20 years ago, it was pretty controversial. These types of classes are not uncommon today, but back then they were. But in 2014, when they added another class and another hurdle to climb over, it became a huge controversy because the court and the legislators were trying to prevent the divorce rate from climbing. There was motivation by the Mormon church, that whole umbrella of the theocracy, that wants Utah to have a low divorce rate. And so they were trying to make it harder. At least That's what the opponents of the law thought. They thought, this is stupid. You're making it harder. If you're going to file for divorce, this is just going to make it one more challenge because they have to go through so many steps before they can actually get through the process of the marriage being dissolved. They don't have like long waiting periods like some states, but they have to take a ton of classes. So the classes are 2 hours. One is the orientation and one is the education course. And this is generally for parents that are going through a legal divorce, and these have to be done in order to get a divorce decree. In this case, there is no divorce decree that the court will issue. And if they do issue a divorce decree, I'm going to have some serious questions like, did they have a legal marriage that was never disclosed to the public? Have they been committing bigamy? I'm going to venture to say that's a no, but if we get a divorce decree at the end of this, I've got some questions, but let's talk about this actual course. Commissioner Snow has ordered that Kody and Christine go through the mandatory orientation for divorcing parents and the mandatory education course for divorcing parents. Weird, Commissioner Snow. They're not divorcing, but alas, the orientation course for divorce or temporary separation actions, according to the legislature, there is an established divorce orientation course for all parties with minor children who file for a petition for temporary separation or for a divorce. A couple with no minor children is not required and may not choose to attend this class. So if this class is for people filing for temporary separation or divorce, why, Commissioner Snow, are you requiring them to take this class? Seems weird. The divorce orientation shall be neutral, unbiased, and at least an hour in duration. The orientation course shall educate the parties about the divorce process and reasonable alternatives, including instructing the parties on options available as alternatives to divorce, resources available from courts and administrative agencies for resolving custody support issues without filing for divorce, resources available to improve or strengthen the marriage, discussions of the positive and negative consequences of divorce, a discussion of the process of divorce, and then other options for proceeding with a divorce, including mediation, collaborative law, and litigation, and then a discussion on post-divorce resources. So the bulk of this class is not about actually divorce. It's trying to guilt parents who have kids to not file for divorce and telling them, you've gotten this far, but maybe you could arrange child custody without filing for divorce. There's other options instead of divorce. There's lots of negative consequences to your child because of divorce. Here, let's strengthen your marriage. If you've gone through the process of getting to the point where you file for divorce, the reason why opponents of this law don't like these classes is because these classes try to guilt people to stay married and reconcile. The divorce orientation may be provided in conjunction with mandatory parenting classes. They have to pay in order to do this, so it's $30 to take the class. They can offer it in person or online. And then there's other details, which include that they will also be told about the consequences of divorce. Now, after they get through that class, they have to go through what's called divorce education classes. And I have to note this, that it's interesting because these courses specifically state that these are not marriage counseling courses. It's almost like they have to put this disclaimer in there so that you don't think that they're trying to get you to reconcile. Now, I found this on Divorce Online Utah, and it says, according to the law, the divorce education course in Utah aims to help parents undergoing a divorce better understand their children's needs and perceptions of the event. They are instructed about the ways children of different age express their pain and taught to help their kids adjust. The mandatory course includes discussions about the impact of divorce on children, family relationships, and both parties' financial responsibilities. It also focuses on the harmful effects of domestic violence on all parties involved. A more specific program is described at their website, but it includes the common grieving stages, children's experiencing during and after divorce at different ages, ways parents can help their kids adjust at different developmental stages, proper communication about divorce with children, the impact of stress on children, and ways to minimize it by decreasing the conflict between parents, ways of cooperation between the divorced spouses and sharing parenting responsibilities, strategies for promoting children's self esteem and encouraging their self expression, and financial and legal aspects of divorce. It says unmarried parents involved in visitation and or custody action are also often required to undertake this educational course for better understanding their children's needs. So the course in this case could be required because they want Christine and Kody to better understand Truly's needs. The absolutely only reason I could see them doing this is for Kody, but I don't know. I think the divorce orientation course is insane because Christine and Kody are not together. They haven't been together in years. This action that's being filed was filed 3+ years after they had split up. Truly has already gone through the process of separating from her father. She lives in Utah. She goes to school to Utah. She's in high school. She has a new stepfather. I can understand if this was being done right at the time of the split, but it just seems like they're adding another hurdle to make it harder for Christine and to make it more difficult. Because I would assume that it might be better for Kody to take a parenting class than it would be for him to take a class on divorcing. And I think it's really asinine that these classes are being required by the court, Commissioner Snow, because Kody has no relationship with Truly. Kody needs an anger management class. Kody needs a class for domestic violence. Kody does not need a class on how to be a better, less divorced dad. And by putting these requirements in place, now Christine has already completed them, right? She completed both of the courses. She hasn't done the education course, but she's done the parenting class and the orientation. But she should have just had to do the parenting course. That's it. The last thing someone like Christine needs right now is to feel guilt for leaving Kody. And it seems insane that the state of Utah, knowing that they're already involved in a marriage with other people and there's zero possibility of reconciliation, would be trying to encourage them to stay in a marriage that's not even legal and to reconcile and get back together into an illegal marriage when the state of Utah has a law against polygamy. So, if that's the case, does Utah really care about its polygamous laws and anti-polygamy laws if they're going to ask family members or plural wives to go through these processes? So on the one hand, they're saying it's illegal. We're going to arrest you. And then on the other hand, they're going to say you need to stay. You need to reconcile because it's going to be hard on your kid. The reason why I'm calling out the court is because in this case, it feels like these laws and these classes have been developed by the church. And in the state of Utah, it's a theocracy. The Latter-day Saints, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, has a lot of control. Utah County, where this divorce is happening, and it's not a divorce, is one of the most conservative counties in the state. I can't even tell you the number of emails I have received and direct messages from those of you in this area that have told me I went through child custody or divorce in this county. It was an absolute nightmare. I got messages from women that came out of abusive relationships that said, my husband was an abuser and somehow he got unsupervised visitation and is barely paying me child support. Because in the cases of the patriarchy, they often side with the father. We think it's going to be a slam dunk. And then we look at where she lives, we look at what they're requiring her to do and what they're asking her to consider, and it makes your mind explode. And if we look at this from an even higher level and we consider that who is Christine? Christine represents a very public ex-polygamist. She represents an advocate who once advocated for polygamy. One of the reasons why Christine was afraid to leave Kody was because she was afraid that people would think that she was a fraud, that she was a liar, because she had spent 11, 12 years, 13 years promoting polygamy and saying that it was great, acting like there were no issues, that it was perfect, that the family was beautiful, trying to legalize polygamy or decriminalize it, trying to sell the public on this concept that it's not like Warren Jeffs, it's not like the FLDS, there's not harmful actions in the family, and then come to find out years later that there is abuse in the family, there has been abuse in the family, and there has been financial, economic, verbal abuse, psychological abuse, isolation, threats, coercion, so much. And Christine, for the years, was a public face for women in polygamy. And now that woman that was the public face in polygamy, she represents one of thousands of women that were once plural wives that have left this cult. And what it's telling these women by making Christine do this is that if you're going to leave your husband, who's not even legally recognized as your husband in the state of Utah, if you're going to go to court and try to fight him, we're going to make you take classes to try to get you to stay. And so consider this. Consider a woman like Christine or any of the women that leave this culture. They're already petrified of the court system. They are already taught that the courts are and the legal processes are designed to rip apart families and imprison the fathers and the mothers. They are taught that the courts are led by evil and wicked people and that they're better to handle all of their disputes internally. So then you get a woman who's afraid of the courts already, taught her whole life not to trust law enforcement or judges or lawyers. And then you have that woman who's already been brainwashed, all of those things, to then have to go through a course, which then guilts them and tells them, you probably should think about what this is going to do to your child, even though they're already living with that guilt because they also come from a culture that tells them that even if their husband abuses them, they have to stay in a marriage. That's not legal because the Apostolic United Brethren certainly isn't going to obviously give a release for a woman that's been physically abused. I mean, in 2023, Dave Watson and his council members, who are the leaders of that church, said that even if a woman was getting hit by their husband, they were not inclined to grant a release. So even if they try to go through the process with the church, they're still pressured to stay. And then once they get to the court system to get the rightful money from their husbands, their exes, their abusers, then they're told again, well, maybe you should consider reconciling because this will be hard on the kids. And don't you know how hard this will be financially? These are other options to consider. The courts are trying to help the men, in this case, not have to take responsibility, not have to pay. And it's almost trying to stronghold the women back to these abusive men. And if the women get past this hurdle, and by and far, Christine represents an anomaly, okay? Because there's lots of women that leave that don't go to court because of these challenges. And then the anomaly also being a lot of women just don't leave. So Christine now publicly has to go through these steps and she's showing the women that you're going to do this, but it also might have the opposite reaction by the women inside and they're going to go see how hard it was for Christine. Now I'm going to think about leaving because the court's just going to side with their dad anyway. I mean, we don't have to look far to see what happened with Kyle Henderson and Nicole Henderson. That woman was battered, bruised, and violently attacked by Kyle. Somehow he gets an Alford plea, and he gets probation when he almost killed her. And then while they're going through the divorce, somehow the former attorney general, Mark Shurtleff, is Kyle's attorney. And he has the court leave out everything about violence, domestic violence, or abuse. Nothing can be discussed about the orders of protection that were against Kyle or the charges that he faced. Nothing. They couldn't even talk about polygamy in the court. It was almost like the court was like, yeah, polygamy is illegal, but we're not going to talk about it. And so it's all Nicole's fault. And he wins because she can't bring any of that into court. And mind you, Kyle's new lawyer is the lawyer that Kody's using to represent him. So if you think it's going to be easy for Christine, when he hired that attorney, he was sending her a message. And the Commissioner Snow here is also sending a message, and it's asinine, and it's a horrible message to send to women. And I'm doing this video for my dear friend Kristen Decker, who said it's about time judges in Utah County and in Utah are held accountable and called out for the way that they treat women that are leaving polygamy. So this is for you, Kristen. What are your thoughts? Please let me know what they are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.